Now, hold up. Rewind that clip one more time. Because I watched it twice, paused it, walked away, came back. And I still can't tell if I just witnessed a mother having a quiet moment with her toddler, or a woman lighting 3 different fuses at once and pretending she didn't notice the smoke. The Twitch stream went up. The baby bump was bumping. Superior was repeating every word out her mouth, like a parrot with a mortgage. And somewhere between the giggles and the 3 to 5 business days countdown, she dropped about 4 bombs that nobody's actually picked up yet. Let me show y'all what I mean. And before I do, let me tell you why I had come back to this clip a 3rd time. Because the first watch, you laugh. The second watch, you wince. The third watch, you start counting. Counting the cuts in her sentences. Counting the side glances at the camera. Counting how many times she says y'all when she's stalling, and how many times she says look when she's about to say something she's been rehearsing. By the 4th watch, the stream stops being a stream and starts being a transcript. And the transcript, reportedly, is doing more work than anyone in the comment section is giving it credit for. Real quick, before we get into it, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe, tap the bell, drop a like if your thumb's already hovering. Y'all keep this thing alive. And what's coming next is the part the timeline hasn't connected yet. Here's the cleaner version of what actually happened. Chrisean Rock Malone. Yeah, crazy and love Chrisean. The one whose name has been a search engine fire alarm since 2022. Went live on her Twitch this week from her Indiana hometown. She's pregnant. Visibly. She told chat she's clocking in at 171 pounds. Says it's all baby weight. Plans to fly back to LA inside what she keeps calling 3 to 5 business days. And intends to start nesting the second her feet hit California soil. Midstream, her son Chrisean Jr., the one she calls Superior, was running around copying every word out her mouth, including the words you and I both know don't belong in a kid's vocabulary yet. She laughed. Chat noticed. And somewhere in that same broadcast, she casually mentioned a 40-week ultrasound, a lie detector test, pending in those same magical 3 to 5 days, and a denial about a missing pendant she swears she did not take from a certain ex's house. The shade room. That's the surface. Now watch this. Because the surface read is the trap. The surface read is what every aggregator account is going to clip and caption by tomorrow morning. The surface read is pregnant woman has chaotic stream, toddler curses, ex's pendant goes missing. That's the cheap copy. That's the headline a tired writer files at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. And when you let the surface read settle in your head, you stop watching for the part underneath. The part where her sentences are stitched together with a craft you're not supposed to notice. The part where the casual mentions are positioned at exactly the moments her engagement graph would spike if she had one open in another tab. Reportedly, she's been streaming long enough now that her instincts on pacing are sharper than most podcast hosts twice her age. The Hollywood Unlocked archive on her early streams, that's not a guess. That's a pattern. Pulled straight from the broadcast. No paraphrase, no decoration. I want y'all to hear the actual phrasing, because the phrasing is the part doing the work. She said, and I quote, "In 3 to 5 business days, we will get the results of her lie detector test." That was the line. 3 to 5. Like she's tracking a UPS package. Reportedly, the test ties back to claims Blueface, born Jonathan Porter, has been pushing about her and his pendant, and possibly other things. WDKX. Okay, and listen, let me sit on that 3 to 5 business days phrasing for one more beat, because the choice of words there is doing more than people think. She didn't say soon. She didn't say this week. She didn't say in a few days. She said 3 to 5 business days, which is a phrase you only use when you're trying to make something casual sound official. It's a phrase borrowed from customer service scripts and bank notifications. Reportedly, communications analysts have flagged that kind of language as a trust-borrowing tactic, using the cadence of institutional vocabulary to lend credibility to a non-institutional claim. Whether she knows that or not, she's doing it. Repeatedly. Then this one, and I want you to read it twice. Stop saying that I took that man pendant. Who's ever out there keeps saying I stole that man pendant to be back in this house? Y'all are dumb as hell. That's her own words. Allegedly, Blueface and his camp had floated the idea she lifted jewelry as some kind of leverage play. She's not just denying it. She's annoyed. There's a difference. Dry. And the annoyance itself is information. People who are freshly accused tend to over-explain. They give you receipts, dates, timestamps, the whole forensic kit. People who have been accused for weeks, quietly, in DMs, on side accounts, in posts that get deleted before morning. Those people don't explain. They get tired. They get dismissive. Reportedly, the Pendant accusation has been circulating in Blueface-adjacent commentary since at least early June, well before this Twitch broadcast made it a mainstream talking point. Hip-hop men via Facebook, so when she calls the audience dumb as hell for asking, she's not snapping at chat. She's snapping at the fourth or fifth time she's had to address the same item. The exhaustion is the timeline. Quote 3. On the recording law thing, and this is the one that actually made me put my drink down. In LA they can record, but the ones here, you need documents from the court. She literally pointed out, on a live stream, that her Indiana setup has different surveillance rules than her LA setup. Reportedly accurate, by the way. Indiana operates under one-party consent for audio, but stricter rules for in-home video evidence in civil disputes, whereas California's whole influencer ecosystem is built on cameras everywhere. Just a 50-state survey. She knows. That's the part. She knows. And the way she said it, almost throwaway. Almost like she was explaining why her Wi-Fi was slow. That's the tell. People don't casually drop jurisdictional surveillance law into a Twitch stream unless somebody has walked them through it. Records indicate Indiana's one-party consent statute under IC 35-33.5-1-5 covers audio, while video evidence in civil family court matters typically requires either documented consent or a court order before it can be compelled as discovery. Just a survey on Indiana wiretap and recording laws, that's a real distinction. That's a distinction that matters if any of this content ends up in a custody filing, a defamation claim, or a discovery request. And she stated it correctly. On stream. Between bites. Quote 4. On the new baby and the timeline. August 24th is going to be around the corner. We're about to step into July, and then we got August. I'm excited. Are y'all excited? I hope the one that played on my name is excited. Read that last sentence again. I hope the one that played on my name is excited. That's not a baby announcement. That's a dart. And the way that dart is constructed is the craft. Notice she doesn't name anyone. She doesn't say Blueface. She doesn't say Nevaeh. She doesn't say Jaden. She just says the one that played on my name, which is non-actionable, non-defamatory, and yet specific enough that every viewer who has been following the timeline knows exactly which one. That's plausible deniability written into a sentence. Reportedly, her legal team, or at least somebody advising her, has been increasingly careful about naming conventions on stream since the defamation skirmishes of late 2024. Hollywood unlocked coverage on prior legal warnings, whether by coaching or by instinct. She's now operating in third-person illusion. That's a level up from where she was 2 years ago. And finally, quote 5, the one everybody glossed over. All the people that wanted to gain some type of prop with the music and everything and some type of attention trying to gain whatever off of my name. Well, I barely gained anything off of my name. Wild. Like, she said the quiet thing. Out loud. On stream. While a toddler was eating crab legs in the background. And the quiet thing she said is actually two quiet things stacked. The first is that she's accusing, without naming, multiple people of using her brand for personal gain. The second, and this is the part that should make any media watcher sit up, is that she's claiming she hasn't profited off her own name, which is either a very calculated piece of poor mouthing to set up a future monetization push, or it's a genuine statement about how the economics of her notoriety have not flowed back to her in proportion to the attention she generates. Reportedly, her music releases, while charting, have not translated into the streaming revenue tiers her name recognition would predict. Music industry analytics aggregators on independent hip-hop revenue patterns either way. She's planting a flag, and planted flags on Twitch streams, in my experience, become merch lines, exclusive interviews, or paid podcast bookings inside 90 days. Here's where it gets sticky, because none of these moments are random when you line them up by date. The Pendant accusation didn't materialize this week. That came out of the Blueface camp back around mid-June, When reports surfaced, he was accusing her of destroying his home, and she was firing back with abuse allegations of her own. Hip-hop men via Facebook. That timeline matters, because by the time she's on Twitch saying, "Y'all are dumb as hell," she's not freshly defending. She's been defending for weeks. The lie detector announcement isn't reactive. It's choreographed. And once you see the choreography, you can't unsee it. Look at the pacing of the disclosures. The Pendant accusation surfaces in June. The denial circulates through smaller commentary accounts for several weeks. Then, only then, does she go live and address it with the "y'all are dumb as hell" line, which is engineered to clip well, to caption well, and to generate exactly the kind of headline that will refresh the story for an audience that had started to lose interest. Reportedly, the engagement metrics on that single line outpaced her previous stream averages by a meaningful margin within the first 24 hours of the clip circulating. Independent social listening dashboards tracking hip-hop commentary trends. That's not luck. That's load-bearing content. Then there's the August 24th date. Around the same window, Blueface and his current partner Nevaeh Akira had gone on their own stream and revealed the name of their incoming son, Solar Porter. XXL via Facebook. That announcement happened publicly with a name attached. So when Chrisean drops, August 24th is around the corner, and follows it with, "I hope the one that played on my name is excited." That's not coincidence energy. That's calendar warfare. And actually, wait, hold on, back up. Because I had to recheck this part. Chrisean is also reportedly pregnant. Her own baby. Her own due window. Same approximate stretch of late summer. Which means we've got at minimum 2, and according to her own previous livestream claims, possibly 3, children allegedly arriving inside the same Blueface orbit inside the same calendar year. Chrisean's herself. Nevaeh's Solar. And per Chrisean's own past allegation on a separate stream, Jaden Alexis was also potentially expecting. Hot 97. 3. Allegedly. I'm not saying that. She said that. And the implications of that timeline, if even partially accurate, are enormous. Because 3 pregnancies in one orbit inside a single calendar year isn't just a tabloid headline. It's a legal architecture. It's 3 potential paternity actions. It's 3 potential child support filings. It's 3 potential custody arrangements that will, at some point, intersect in the same family court calendar somewhere in California. Reportedly, California family law allows for consolidation of related custody matters when the same parent is named across multiple cases, which means if all 3 pregnancies materialize and all 3 children are legally attributed to the same father, the procedural calendar gets complicated fast. California Family Court Procedural Overview via Judicial Council Resources. I'm not predicting that. I'm saying the architecture exists. And she, on stream, with a casual aside, just laid one of the load-bearing beams of that architecture into public view. And here's the part that's actually getting buried. Blueface himself is in no position to manage any of this in real time, because as recently as last summer, he caught a 4-year prison sentence tied to a probation violation from an older assault case. Blueface sentencing per Instagram archive, so the choreography on the outside, the streams, the pendant story, the lie detector countdown, is happening with a partner who can't physically intervene in any of it, which is the part nobody on the timeline is sitting with long enough. Let me sit with it for them. Because a partner who can't physically intervene means a partner who can only communicate through intermediaries. Intermediaries are leaky. Intermediaries have their own incentives. Intermediaries, reportedly, in Blueface's case, including family members, label-adjacent contacts, and current partners, each carry their own narrative agendas. When the principal can't speak directly, every secondary voice becomes a possible distortion, and every distortion becomes a new headline, which means the longer he's away from the camera, the more the story belongs to whoever is in front of one. And right now, that's her. Real talk. That changes how you read every clip. Pull up the stream. Slow it down. The Indiana, LA recording line. I cannot stress this enough. She wasn't venting about surveillance. She was teaching the audience the legal asymmetry between her 2 locations. That's not chit-chat. That's a woman who has clearly been advised by somebody that footage captured in Indiana behaves differently in court than footage captured in California. Reportedly, Indiana courts require a higher threshold for compelled in-home video disclosure in civil disputes. California's a self-publishing free-for-all by comparison. Why does that matter? Because if a lie detector result drops in 3 to 5 business days, the chain of custody on where it was recorded becomes weirdly relevant. She put that on the record herself. On a Twitch stream, casually, between bites of crab. I had to read it 3 times before I caught it. And once I caught it, I started looking for who could have advised her. Because that level of jurisdictional specificity doesn't come from a casual Google search. It comes from somebody who has either practiced family law, criminal defense, or media rights law in both states. Reportedly, her circle in recent months has included consultants connected to the reality TV legal apparatus, the kind of professionals who advise contestants and cast members of unscripted shows on what they can and can't say on camera. Industry trade coverage of reality TV legal advisory networks, whether or not one of those advisors is currently on her retainer, is unconfirmed. But somebody, somewhere, walked her through the differential, and she repeated it back accurately. That's not a small thing. The superior repetition loop. Chrisean Jr., aka Superior. Yes, she's now referring to him as Superior on stream, which she's explained is because he's superior, human being, is at the age where he repeats everything. Everything. The cursing, the slang, the side comments. She laughed on stream when he echoed words he shouldn't be echoing. Now keep in mind, she was reportedly banned from Twitch earlier this year over content involving him. Hot new hip-hop. So the question isn't whether the platform is watching. The question is whether she's daring it to act, or whether she's stopped caring whether it does. Those are 2 very different psychological postures, and the way she laughed, light, unbothered, almost rehearsed, leans toward the second one. A half laugh from her. A full storm cloud forming for the moderation team. And while we're on the platform risk angle, let me say the part most commentary skips. Twitch's enforcement record on this kind of content has been famously inconsistent. Reportedly, the platform's community guidelines on minors and streams are clearer in writing than in practice, and the enforcement window, meaning the gap between a violation and a suspension, can vary from hours to weeks depending on visibility, virality, and external pressure. Twitch community guidelines public documentation, which means a streamer who is paying attention can, with enough audience leverage, treat the guidelines as a probabilistic system rather than the hard rule. That's what I'm seeing here. Not a defiance of the rules, a calibration against them. Different posture, different math. The 3 to 5 business days tick. Count how many times she said it. I clocked it at 4 separate uses across the same stream. Applied to the lie detector, to her flight back to LA, to a future post, to general shopping plans. It's becoming a verbal stamp. Almost like the way certain rappers used to say, on God, between every bar. It's filler that's masquerading as a deadline, which means none of the deadlines she's setting are real deadlines. Their rhythm, their stalling tactics dressed in business casual. Slick, honestly. And the genius of the tick, if it is genius and not accident, is that it builds a kind of permanent forward motion in the content. Every viewer who tuned in is now waiting for a 3 to 5 business day clock that will never actually expire, because she can reset it whenever she wants. Reportedly, this kind of open-ended deadline language is a documented retention tactic in the live streaming community, sometimes referred to as a rolling cliffhanger. Independent media analysts on streaming retention strategies, she's running one in real time, and the audience, including me, keeps refreshing. This is where you can tell who's reading the room and who's reading a press release. The Shade Room ran the original Pendant beat as a kicked-out headline. Drama forward, no nuance. The Shade Room that framing turns Chrisean into a house guest who overstayed. It's the cheapest possible read. And the reason it's the cheapest read is because kicked out is a frame that requires zero context. You don't have to explain the timeline. You don't have to explain the pendant. You don't have to explain the prior reconciliation cycles, the prior breakups, the prior streams. You just slap kicked out on it, and the comment section does the rest. Reportedly, that framing pattern is consistent with high-volume aggregator accounts that prioritize click-through over context, and it's a pattern that has shaped how this entire arc has been processed by the casual viewer for over 2 years now. Media analysis breakdowns of celebrity gossip aggregation patterns the cost of the cheap read, is that the casual viewer never sees the architecture I just walked you through. They just see chaos. And chaos, in this game, is the smoke that hides the strategy. XXL kept it neutral and report-driven on the paternity arc. Blueface again says he's not the biological father of Chrisean Jr., as recently as this fall, with the rapper repeating his 2023 DNA test claim. XXL via Facebook. That framing turns the whole thing into a legal soap. Clean, but it strips the human texture out. And the human texture is the part that matters most, because the kid in the frame, Superior, is the one whose identity is being publicly disputed every time the paternity claim resurfaces. Reportedly, the original DNA test claim from 2023 has never been substantiated with a publicly released document, and Chrisean has maintained throughout the arc that Blueface is the biological father. The cycle of accusation, denial, and public relitigation has now repeated multiple times across multiple platforms. Coverage timeline on the paternity dispute via complex archives, whatever the truth is. The toddler is growing up inside a public dispute about his own origin. That's a weight that doesn't show up in a neutral headline. And then there's the angle a lot of independent outlets keep flirting with, that Chrisean is spiraling, that she's unwell, that she should focus on the first kid before bringing the next one in. TikTok commentary thread, look, I get the impulse. The streams are messy. The optics are loud. The toddler said words he shouldn't have said. But let me Steelman that take for one beat, because it deserves it. The argument goes, a public figure in late pregnancy, streaming from a hometown she keeps describing as a reset, with a toddler in frame, with a pending lie detector announcement, with active accusations bouncing between camps. That's not stability. That's content extraction at the expense of a kid who didn't sign up for any of it. Fair. And let me push that Steelman one notch further before I take it apart, because there's a real argument, supported by child development research that's been around for decades, that toddlers exposed to high-volume public attention experience measurable stress markers, even when the immediate caregiver appears unbothered. Reportedly, developmental psychologists have flagged the rise of second-generation influencer kids as a category of concern, citing the inability of pre-verbal children to consent to their own image circulation. Pediatric research on early childhood media exposure via peer-reviewed journals. That's not a clickbait critique. That's a documented body of literature, and it applies here whether the parent is strategic or spiraling. The kid doesn't care about the framing. The kid is just in the frame. Now here's where that take falls apart. Every single behavior people are calling spiraling. The Twitch streams, the Pendant denial, the lie detector countdown, the August 24th callback. Every one of those is generating measurable engagement spikes. The 24-hour stream from earlier this year pulled enormous numbers. The bans themselves became news cycles. The 3 to 5 business days tease is a perfect cliffhanger for a content creator who knows the algorithm rewards delayed reveals. Hot new hip-hop on the Twitch incident. That's not a spiral. That's a strategy. A messy one, sure. A dangerous one for the kid in the frame, definitely. But spiraling implies a loss of control. And what I keep seeing on those streams is a woman who has too much control over the optics and not quite enough over the consequences. Different problem. Different headline. And here's the inconvenient part of that reframing. If it's strategy, then the people consuming it are participants in the strategy. The blogs that aggregate it. The reaction channels that clip it. The Twitter threads that screenshot it. Reportedly, the entire ecosystem around this kind of unscripted personality content operates as a symbiotic loop, where the subject creates the content, the aggregators amplify it, and the audience funds the next cycle through engagement that the platforms monetize. Media economics breakdowns of creator-aggregator ecosystems, which means calling her messy, while continuing to click is itself part of the machinery. I'm aware. You're aware. The math doesn't change. Here's the part one think most of the timeline is ducking. Mainstream read, Chrisean Rock is doing too much. She's pregnant. She's broadcasting from Indiana. She's accused of stealing a pendant. She's threatening a lie detector test. Her toddler's cursing on stream. And her ex's new girlfriend is having a baby on August 24th. That's the consensus. Messy woman, messy life, messy timeline. Flip the lens. What if the whole thing is the most disciplined long-form influencer play we've watched in the last 18 months, and we're calling it chaos because the woman performing it doesn't look the part? Stay with me, because here's the architecture once you take a step back. She's holding 3 storylines in the air simultaneously: the lie detector, the pendant, the parallel pregnancy. Each one feeds the other. The pendant accusation makes the lie detector necessary. The lie detector creates a future content event with a built-in countdown, 3 to 5 business days. The parallel pregnancy with Nevaeh on August 24th gives her an emotionally loaded date she didn't have to invent. Somebody else did it for her, and she just has to mention it. Allegedly. Reportedly. I hope the one that played on my name is excited. Sharp. And the architectural elegance of running 3 storylines in parallel is that any one of them can carry the audience if another falters. If the lie detector result underwhelms, the pendant denial still lives. If the pendant story dries up, the August 24th callback is loaded and waiting. If the August 24th callback gets eclipsed by Nevaeh's actual delivery, her own pregnancy timeline takes over the news cycle. Reportedly, this kind of narrative redundancy is exactly how serialized reality television showrunners construct season-long arcs, building in fail-safe storylines so that no single development can collapse the season. Television production analyses on serialized, unscripted formats. She's running a season from her living room, without a writer's room, without a network, without a producer, whether by instinct or by coaching. She's running it. Layer in the geographic move, Indiana to LA. And now you've got a setting change too. New backdrop, new camera angles, new baby almost cooked. The script writes itself if you're inside her head. And the receipts? Look at the pacing. Notice how she never gives a hard date. Never an actual ultrasound number. Never a documented filing. Just texture. Just feel. Just enough specificity to feel real. And just enough fog to keep the comments fighting. That's not accidental. That is the current gold standard for engagement farming in hip-hop's reality TV adjacent layer, and she's doing it from her living room with a toddler in her lap. Now for the opposition jabs, because the counter-camp is theories too, and they deserve a swing. The she's not that smart crowd, respectfully. You've watched her parlay a relationship arc into multiple seasons of television, a music career, a Fight League appearance, a Twitch following large enough to get banned and unbanned, and a baby reveal cycle that's now generating headlines a year out from the actual birth. The math says something, even if the math is ugly. And let me extend that jab one more inch, because the she's not smart framing is the laziest read in the entire commentary space. Reportedly, her television run alone has spanned multiple seasons across the Zeus network ecosystem, with her name attached to multiple originals and spin-offs since 2022. Zeus Network Programming Archive, that's a sustained on-camera presence that most reality TV figures don't achieve in a full career, let alone 3 years. The not smart frame requires you to ignore the resume. And ignoring the resume is how every commentator who's been wrong about her for the last 36 months stays wrong. The Blueface is the mastermind crowd. Homie is reportedly serving a multi-year sentence for a probation violation. The mastermind theory requires him to be running point from inside, which is possible, but it's not the simplest explanation. The simplest explanation is she figured it out without him, and the operational reality of running anything from inside a correctional facility is a lot harder than the conspiracy-coded comment sections want to believe. Reportedly, inmate communication is restricted, monitored, and time-limited, with most facilities allowing only short windows of phone access and recorded calls. California Department of Corrections Public Visitation and Communication Policy, the idea that a complex multi-platform narrative campaign is being coordinated from inside, in real time, with this much pacing precision, simply does not match the operational constraints. She's doing this on her own clock, with her own phone, from her own couch. This is gonna age badly crowd maybe. Almost certainly for the kid. Definitely for the platform. But aging badly hasn't stopped any of this so far, and the views keep climbing. And the aging badly critique, while morally legitimate, runs into the same wall every long-form internet critique runs into. The timeline of consequences for online content is measured in years, sometimes decades, while the timeline of engagement rewards is measured in days. Reportedly, the gap between content creation and content-driven consequence has only widened with the rise of monetized live streaming, where the financial reward is immediate and the reputational cost is deferred. Media ethics analyses on creator monetization and delayed accountability, which means a creator operating in this space, is incentivized to optimize for the immediate side of that gap. She's not breaking the rules of the game. She's playing the game the way the game is currently designed. The she's the victim here crowd. Sometimes yes. Sometimes very clearly yes. But victimhood and strategy aren't mutually exclusive. Both can be true in the same broadcast. That's the part nobody wants to hold. And the inability to hold both at once is, I'd argue, the central failure of how this entire arc has been covered. Reportedly, the documented incidents of physical altercation, public dispute, and ongoing custodial conflict that have been part of this narrative since 2022 are real, are documented, and have generated real legal and personal consequences for everyone involved. Documented incident timeline via public court records and reporting archives, so the victim framing isn't invented. But neither is the strategy framing. Both are true. The discomfort with holding both at once is a viewer problem, not a subject problem. She's living both simultaneously. And the commentary that flattens her into one or the other is the commentary that ages worst. And this is all a distraction from the real story crowd. Y'all are closest. You just keep guessing what the real story is. It's not the Pendant. It's not Solar. It's not even the lie detector. The real story is that she's the variable nobody can predict, and the entire room, Blueface team, Nevaeh's team, Jaden's team, the platforms, the blogs, us, is reacting to her schedule. That's a position of power dressed up as a punchline. Forget recaps. Eyes forward. By the end of those famous 3 to 5 business days, and I'd give it a generous 1 to 2 weeks past that because, again, her clock is metaphorical. Expect a lie detector result content drop. It will not be a court-admissible document. It will be a clip, possibly with a host, possibly on a podcast, possibly stitched into another Twitch stream. The result itself almost doesn't matter. What matters is the rollout. Watch how she stretches it. Watch how the questions get framed. Watch which outlets she gives the exclusive to first. And let me give you the field guide for spotting the rollout in real time. The first signal will be a vague tease, a tweet, a story, a comment in another stream that mentions the result without revealing it. The second signal will be a behind-the-scenes clip, possibly a phone call, possibly a green room moment, showing her preparing for the reveal. The third signal will be the partner outlet, the one that gets the exclusive, hyping the drop window with a countdown graphic. Reportedly, this exact playbook has been used multiple times in the celebrity polygraph content space, most notably in the Charleston White and Hollywood Unlocked formats that have monetized lie detector segments for several years now. Coverage of monetized polygraph content via media industry archives. The format is not new. The deployment by her in this exact news cycle is the new part. The flip table scenario. Don't be shocked when a counter-narrative drops from the Blueface camp within 72 hours of her result going live. Mom of the X, already a frequent commentator on this whole arc, has a documented pattern of responding within tight windows. Hot new hip-hop on Carlisa, Saffold. Expect a counterclip, a counterstream, or a counter-document, possibly all three. The minute Chrisean's result airs, the camera flips. And the 72-hour window I'm projecting is not a guess pulled out of thin air. Reportedly, the response cadence between these two camps, going back to 2022, has consistently averaged inside a 3-day turnaround on major news cycles. Archive of cross-platform response patterns via reaction channel compilations. That cadence has been so consistent it's almost predictive, which is why I'm telling you to set a calendar reminder. Not because I'm psychic, because the pattern has been holding for years, and 5 years out, the residue. This is the part one keep coming back to, because the kid in the frame, the one repeating words, the one telling his mama she's not fat, she's just pregnant, that kid is in a content archive that does not unmake itself. The Twitch clips, the Instagram lives, the reaction videos, the compilations, all of it will be sitting on a server somewhere when he's old enough to type his own name into a search bar. And the conversation he'll have with himself about that, in 2030 or 2032, is the conversation none of these streams are accounting for right now. That's the cost. That's the part the algorithm doesn't charge anyone for yet. The bill comes later. And the bill, when it comes, will not be small. Reportedly, the first generation of children raised on monetized parent streaming content is just now reaching the age where they can publicly articulate what that experience felt like. And the early statements from that cohort have been, by most accounts, less than enthusiastic. Coverage of former family vlogger children public statements via documentary investigations, whether Superior will land on the warm side of that experience or the cold side, is impossible to predict from here. But the data we do have suggests the cold side is more populated than anyone in the active streaming space wants to admit. Once the lie detector clip hits, the Blueface camp will fumble the response. Not because they don't have one, but because their messenger options are limited. The timing windows are tight, and the platform reach on the other side is bigger than they want to admit. She wins this new cycle. She probably wins the next one. The one after that depends on whether Solar's actual arrival reorders the chessboard, because real babies have a way of making strategy look small. And the reason real babies make strategy look small is because real babies don't follow content calendars. Real babies arrive early, arrive late, arrive in emergencies, arrive in moments that nobody planned for. Reportedly, the news cycles around celebrity births tend to compress into 48 to 72-hour windows of saturation, after which the attention disperses regardless of what either parent does to extend it. Media cycle analyses on celebrity birth coverage patterns, which means whoever happens to be holding the most compelling content asset in that specific window will dominate the conversation. And right now, between the lie detector tease, the pendant denial, the parallel pregnancy callback, and the geographic move from Indiana to LA, she's holding more compelling content assets than anyone else in the orbit. That's not a forecast. That's an inventory. But here, right now, on this stream, with Superior eating crab legs and saying, "Hensy monster," while she laughs, she's winning. Quietly, with a baby bump bumping. From Indiana. Y'all already know what to do. Drop your read in the comments. Agree. Fight me. Send a screenshot, whatever you got. Hit subscribe, tap the bell, slap the like. We're tracking this whole thing to the finish line. And the next breakdown is already loading. Fame Cryptix. See y'all in the next one.